also inform you that on this program this afternoon, we have also a special guest, someone of very outstanding profile that definitely would inspire you, especially as a mentor. But of course, we will come to the parts where I will be introducing him to you, and it will be giving, he will be speaking to you this afternoon. But right about now, I want Madam Adiola Adelugba to please take it up from here for the welcome address. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayowa, for that introduction and welcome. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adiola, like I have been introduced, and I'm the co-founder, admin and project for AIIDEV Africa. Firstly, I would like to tender my congratulations to everyone that is on this call, because like Mr. Mayowa said, you fought the good fight out of passion, and that is why you're here. But it is also with pleasure that I welcome you to this program. This is the commencement of the Africa SDGs Mentorship Programme. And as we embark on this journey together, I understand that we are fueled by a shared commitment to drive positive change and to make a lasting impact in our communities and beyond. That is why we are all here, both the participants and AIIDEV Africa. And I am sure that a program guide has been shared with you. So I would not really like to take much of your time, because I believe that you've gone through this guide. However, I want to assure you that the objectives of this project are not merely words on paper. They actually represent our collective aspiration and dedication to do something to make changes in our communities, in our countries, and in our continent, Africa. So I will just briefly highlight the goals that we hope to achieve in the course of this program. So firstly, we aim to help you establish mentorship connections. And this is very important, because to be successful in life, we need guidance. And that is why a program such as this is very important, to groom and to help certain people that have the qualities already, then to groom them to be better, and then to help extend in leadership and in followership as well to other people to achieve certain goals, of course, in this case, as related to SDGs. So through mentorship, guidance, skill building, this program is going to empower you to become catalysts for sustainable development. I just want you to brace up and know that not only would that be happening, but it is also dedicated to helping your personal and professional growth. We are all professionals from different spheres of life, but in whatever capacity that you have professionally, just understand that this project or this program that you're embarking on is going to help you become better, and is going to help you with networking opportunities, access to relevant tools that we use personally and professionally. And all of this is going to attribute to your success in whatever you do regarding the SDGs and in your personal life as well. So I want to just encourage us that understand that you're not just here for you. You are here to represent a generation. You're here to represent a community, a country. And because you will be empowered to be future leaders, you will be empowered to empower other people. So please, it might sound daunting. It might sound like, oh, this is a lot of responsibility. It might be, but I know that you are capable of it. And that is why you are here today. So please, soak in the passion that made you apply for this program in the first place. Soak it in and try. You would not even know when time will actually pass away. And I'm sure that you're going to enjoy the process that has been laid out in this program. So together we have the power to create meaningful change and shape this better future, this better sustainable future that we look forward to. And as we embark on this journey, please embrace all of the opportunities that will come to you. You don't want to miss out on anything. You want to take full advantage of being on this program. Lean on one another. Lean on one another for support. Try to make new friends, new connections. They are very important. And make your passion the guiding light for you as you continue in this program. I am confident that with your dedication and resilience, and of course, your togetherness, all of us, including AIIDEV Africa, we are going to exceed all of our goals and leave a lasting legacy. Once again, I want to welcome you to the African SDG Mentorship Program. Let us work hand in hand and bring this shared vision into reality. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayowa, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Adiola. And I mentioned earlier before Madam Adiola came on board that I would be telling you why this program is very important to you, because it happens sometimes that many of us, we love maybe the title. You love that it's SDGs inclined, so maybe you just felt, oh, let me just apply for this thing. Or maybe one of your friends kind of mandated that, oh, jump on this program. Maybe you are not even sure what is in it for you. So, I want to just give you a brief before the proper information that we'll be having from our regional coordinator. And yes, why have we thought about this program? We've looked into, how the Sustainable Development Goals, which are 17 in number, how it's progressing, especially on the African continent. And we have realized that we are not moving in the pace that would allow us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the 2030 agenda. Of course, maybe we have some persons on the call that are not familiar with what the 2030 agenda is. Well, this may be the first point of your learning. Maybe after this information, how you can just put it on your browser and look, okay, what is the 2030 agenda? Okay, so you're going to be having enough of information about that. And I can assure you that as we progress into this program properly, we even be guided and be informed about what we are talking about. So while we have identified and realized that we are not on a good track of achieving the 2030 agenda, so we decided, out of the abundance of the programs that we have at AIIDEV Africa, since we are a leading force and providers of sustainable development, that we're going to be having this particular program that would help you become a change maker. And not just become a change maker, we are going to be holding you by the hands under established mentorship connection to help you, have a personal and professional growth, and to empower you with the resources and the knowledge that you would need, such that you can be an icon of the sustainable development in your individual community. Do not forget that as we are here on this call this afternoon, about 250 of you from different regions, from different locations. By the time you will finish with us on this program, I am sure that the impacts you'll be making in your community will transcend beyond what just an individual
Okay, thank you very much, Mayowa. And I think I will just take it from there. Good afternoon once again, every change makers on this call. And a very big congratulations to each and every one of you. And yeah, this is a very great privilege, just like the co-founder of AIIDEV Africa, as earlier mentioned. But before we move straight to the key information session and onboarding session, I would just quickly like to introduce one or two people who are going to be sharing some feedback and also their experience. This program is not, it's something that which we started years ago, and they will also like to share their experience, how impactful it has been, and what are the things they actually gain, what are the things that transform them positively. Yeah. And we have some of them on this call this afternoon. However, please feel free to use the comment section, and I will still be coming to do a very detailed information as regards the program timeline, the program structure, what are the things that are being expected from each and every one, and what exactly is the activities for this program all about across the respective spaces. And we'll also be taking questions from everyone that has a question to share, and so that we can clearly justify and clarify every of your concerns. And for me to just introduce, I will first of all, I would like to introduce Oriofe Adebujer. Can you unmute your mic? You can just, in 2 minutes, we'd like to know what was your experience, and we'd like to have your testimonial during your own cohort. Thank you, Oriofe. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, absolutely, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Hello, everyone. First up, I'm very happy to be here. My name is Oriofe Adebujer. I am a land surveyor and a drone pilot. I'd like to briefly share my experience in the African SDG Mentorship Programme. It was really an incredible journey for me. And what has led me to embark on this enriching experience is my interest in leveraging drone and geospatial technology for sustainable development. Throughout the program, I had the privilege of learning from experts in different fields. They provided invaluable insight for us, and I got great guidance on how I could effectively apply these innovative technologies to address a wide range of sustainable development goals, ranging from mapping our environment to monitoring our urban development, and particularly how I could provide accurate geospatial data that can help other SDG stakeholders in their decision-making processes. I would say the possibilities seem limitless. The mentorship program as well deepened my understanding in the interconnectedness of SDGs, and more importantly, the importance of collaboration and partnership in achieving these goals. I was greatly inspired by my mentors, most especially my direct mentor, Dr. Natalie of Circular Economy Innovation Partnership, and as well by my fellow participants from different African countries and from diverse backgrounds who are also making meaningful impacts in their various communities and beyond. So as I reflect on this, my journey with the African SDG Mentorship Programme, I would like to express my gratitude for the opportunity I had to be part of such a transformative program. I'm so excited to continue applying them as we all chart the course to a more sustainable and a changed future. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I love the fact that you made our participants to understand that you are a professional yourself, a surveyor at that, And the fact that even this program has helped you to better yourself as a young professional is one key thing that I love about your testimonies. Thank you very much. We'll also be hearing from another person now. That's Egbewole Taibat. Egbewole Taibat, could you please unmute your mic and give your testimonies, please?
Okay. Hello everyone. Hello.
Yes. Hello. We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Egbewole Toiba. I'm a pharmacist and a public health professional. AIIDEV Africa's program was a very inspiring program for me personally. It was amazing to know that mentorship programs such as that with AIIDEV Africa would train professionals at no cost whatsoever. When I applied at first, I thought it was going to be a 1 week, 2 weeks program and then just get your certificate, but it was a program of 6 months, rigorous program, which taught me not just hard work, but also dedication, commitment, and intentionality. Every single session, from the introductory session with Professor Walsh to the mentorship program at the project launch stage with Dr. Ebiofre, the founder of Jericare, was of great impact. For me, SDGs has always been my passion, naturally. So I was looking for a way to incorporate that into both my personal and professional life. And AIIDEV Africa did an amazing job in helping me with that, because I was doing my master's at the time in public health, and I was supposed to do my dissertation, and the topic was related to sustainable development goals. So I could relate so well with every course that each facilitator explains to us. And it made it very easy for me to be able to be successful at my project dissertation. And AIIDEV Africa does not only teach you professional life, it teaches you about everything about life, basically, your personal life. You learn about various books. I'm a reader normally, but I wouldn't read more than a book or two in a year. But with AIIDEV Africa, we read about 4 books and had to talk about lessons learned. So it was very inspiring, very, very inspiring, I would say. And it helped me relate with both my personal and professional life. And the project I was working on, which is my own personal organization, TED Up Network, AIIDEV Africa made it easy for me to be able to work on it and make profits with it with my project launch. The foundation stage, development stage, project launch stage explained everything we needed to do. It helps you work not just as an individual, but also as a team member. And the growth that I've experienced after I finished AIIDEV Africa in December, and I can say there has been immense growth in both my professional life within the past 4 months. I've been able to launch my my project, which is Sustainable Development Goal 3, creating free medical programs and outreach for various communities in Nigeria. And we recently concluded one in Ile-Ife, Osun State, where we provided free healthcare for about 1,000 impoverished individuals. Normally, I'd started this, but not on a large scale. But AIIDEV Africa made it possible for me to be able to see things in a wider perspective and to be able to know that I can achieve whatever I set my mind to. So I sincerely cannot thank AIIDEV Africa enough for this program. It was really amazing. And if I would say 1 or 2 things to those that are currently pursuing the program, it's to focus on each course like you do in school. Basically, don't aim for the certificates. Aim to enjoy each module like you would do something that is very important to you in life. And I believe it will impact you greatly like it has impacted me. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much. And we are very glad to identify with your progress and your success. And right about now, I think it's just 4 persons that I realized are interested in this program. Because I could see Obuda Perekosuva with the love emoji. I see, Tafadiwa Makambaga from Zimbabwe saying, he's glad to be here. And I think maybe the other 2 people that are also glad to be on the program will be Miriam Mutoni from Kenya, and I think Kendi Obafemi, who is already on fire, and he can't hold and curtail the excitement. He's already given applause to the program already. So I think right about now, what I would want to see from each and every one on this call is, what are your expectations from this program? Maybe you are not sure before, but having heard the testimonies of these 2 fellows, maybe you want to show what you're expecting from the program now. So I want to see that in the chat, just so we'd know whether we have to create something different for you. All right, so while that is ongoing in the chat, while we are trying to understand what your expectations are, I'll be handing over now to Mr. Manuel Lauloyo, who is the regional coordinator for AIIDEV Africa, to take you through the very robust information section right now. And I want you to please pay keen attention, because every bit and details from his words, they would benefit you and be useful to you in the course of your journey on this program. So I'll be joining you shortly again, but enjoy Mr. Emmanuel for now.
Thank you very much, Maiwa, for that, and kudos to each and everyone. Congratulations once again. I want to believe you can hear me clearly, and congratulations once again to every fellow of this 2024 cohort. Many applied for this program, but just few got the opportunity to be part of this cohort. And I want to say big congratulations to you. And a great well done to the project team on AIIDEV Africa and across all the teams that have been able to ensure that this program is also holding again this year. Thank you for the great work you do. And to our team leadership, we say thank you for all you do in making progress in line to the accelerating sustainable development in Africa. I will just quickly dwell on what the program structure looks like, and I'm so glad about the testimonial shared by Egowale and Oriofe. Yeah, these are just few of things which you can also get to benefit. When people in a common African, we always ask this question that what is the benefit? What does stand to benefit from this that I want to do? Yeah, the benefits is, it's so numerous. I mean, so numerous. You can hear what these great fellows and change makers just said. And I want to admonish each and every one to ensure that you put your 100% commitment. Yeah, it's going to be a very engaging series. I mean, there are a lot of activities that are going to be unfolding through this program. And I also want to believe that each and every one of us have downloaded the program guide, the brochure that was sent to us, and that was shared by email. If you've not done that, please ensure you do it. The brochure entails everything you need to know about this program. And if it were to be an app whereby you are just to go to have your course, I know still without brochure, without any communication officer or program officer, you can study that brochure well and know the main activities which we have for this program. And this program is structured into 3 phases. We have the first phase, which is the foundation stage. We have the second stage, which is the development stage. While we have the third stage, which is the advancement stage. Yeah, it's very, very important for each and every one of us to pay attention closely in line to this. And I can see a lot of comments on the YouTube session. I can see a comment from, let me start from Mark. I'm expecting to be mentored into is actively taking part in achieving sustainable development goals, especially from our local society's point of view. Yeah, so I'm going to start from that comment, because whichever solution you are implementing through this program has to be something that is within your community. So, and whatever you do across your community is going to have a catalyst effect to make to bring about progress, to bring about growth in your respective cities and community countries, and also Africa at large. So you getting to identify challenges, identifying problems that in your respective communities, and you getting to provide solutions to them. That's what this program, we are going to achieve better on this program. I can say another thing, let me just read another one. I can say another one from Lala. My expectation is gain more skill on sustainable development goals. I can start with my projects. Yeah, that's just one of the lists which you are going to also get. I want to see Akintayo Tolani to serve my community and country at large, to learn from great mentors, network with the great minds, all of which will be a great asset to me as an individual towards my career goal. Awesome, 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 awesome. And okay, I want to check for one or two more. Okay. Let me just read this one. I can see one from Joshua for how to build capacity, increase my network, gain guidance from mentorship process to implement SDG4 goals while I boost my career. Okay, these are great expectation, and very, very important that you can have an expectation and your expectation are not still being met. So what are the things that can make my expectation not to be met? That's your own heart. If you don't have an open heart of commitment, if you don't have, if you are not committed when it comes to attending workshop series, attending mentorship series, because definitely there is a mentor, there's an industry expert that's going to be assigned to you. And as well, I was speaking, I can also see, a father, a mentor, a professor of sustainable development on the call. Thank you so much, Professor Paul. And we are so delighted to have you. We are so delighted to have you this afternoon. Thank you so much. And I would like to confirm, we just want to say hello now, and definitely we'll introduce you to have your session. Good afternoon, Professor Paul.
Hi, Manuel. Good afternoon to everyone. Always delighted to be here. Always delighted to work with you. So what would you like me to do, Emmanuel? So would I just, did you want me to give a little presentation or open up to questions, or what would you like me to do?
So after this, I just want to give a brief information session, and after which you'll be doing your presentation, definitely on the SDGs, and also get to share more about the SDG Academy.
Okay.
And Mayowa is going to introduce you after shortly, sir, and while you come on board for like 20 minutes to make your presentation.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. So I'll wait for the introduction.
All right, that's fine. Thank you so much. It's so good to have you here.
Yeah.
And even before you came in, some of the fellows in 2023 have been mentioning your name, that Professor Paul, they really enjoyed the session. And I know there are a lot of people on YouTube right now, and they are connecting, and also looking forward to enjoy Professor Paul. So just wait while I briefly share this information regarding the program timeline. And I'm going to share my screen just to do that. But please, I still want you all to download the program brochure so that you can have a detailed information. I'm going to skip all of this. Those are the features of the program. You already have that. So for this program, we have 3 phases, just like I mentioned. The very first phase is the foundation phase, where you are going to have a foundation training, opening your mind to the SDGs, and also talking about that is the agenda 2063, and also talking about, we also have a part of design thinking. We are going to have a foundational knowledge about design thinking. That's just for a beginner class. Also, you have the advanced class of design thinking, the development phase. And some more other courses, modules, which we're also going to be featuring during the foundation training series. And at the end of it all, there is going to be an assessment which is one of the criteria for you proceeding to the next phase, alongside your attendance in the workshop series during the foundation training series. And in the month of June, which is going to, in the month of June, which is going to be between the 1st of June to 22nd of June, you are going to be submitting your development solution proposal. So what is a development solution proposal? This is just a two-pager to say that this is a problem I've identified in my community, and this is a solution I'm proposing to this problem. And this is going to be evaluated, and based on merit and based on scalability and sustainability and relevance of and impact of your projects. That's what they are going to use to rate you, and the very top participants are going to be moved to development phase. And the development phase has different activities, just like one of the 2023 ambassadors was saying the other time that they read a lot of books. Yeah, for each and every month in this program, there is a book which you are to read. You are going to read a book on leadership. You are going to read a book on emotional intelligence. You are going to read a book on finance. You are going to read a book on communication. So, it's something that you are just going to enjoy, and you are going to have peer-to-peer book review. And one of the paramount things which we also find very important in this program is, as you are learning, as you are building, as you are growing your skill, you're also going to be applying for grants on your project. So it's not until you end the program before you start pushing out those ideas which you have. So there are grant opportunities that are going to be shared with you. The community managers are going to be sharing that on a monthly basis. And these are things that, that like last year, we had some of them that got opportunity, went for trips, and, from the grant opportunities we shared from them. However, during the development phase, between 5th July to 30th August, we are going to be having a weekly specialized training, 2 p.m. every Fridays. That's between 5th of July to 30th of August. And this is going to cover various aspects. And, it's not just on professional aspects alone. You are going to have trainings on soft skills, power skills, even email culture and the likes. You are going to have trainings on that. And also, is research and case study development for SDG group. So definitely we are going to be grouped in our respective SDGs. So one of the things this program is also going to help you to identify more is to know your SDG. Which of these SDG do you want to add? You want to innovate for? It's we are not just saying that you are coming as SDG ambassadors and you're a jack of all. No, you must have a specific SDG. I mean, maybe you are an ambassador or advocate or innovator for SDG 4 or SDG 17 or SDG. So across the SDGs, so you must have an SDG group which you belong to, and you can't belong to more than one group. Very, very important. And those groups, you are going to have teamwork, which you'll be doing, which include workshop series and which includes different reports which you are going to submit. But it's going to be an amazing time, actually. And the phase 3 of this program is the advancement phase, which is where you are going to develop your profile, your professional profile. You might have had a professional profile before, but I promise you, when you get to that phase, you are going to, it's going to help you to hone and have a more standard and world-class professional profile, both for your business or maybe initiative and also personally. So another thing is you're also going to have a one-pager of your innovation, which you can easily use to pitch your innovation, and also your pitch deck. Then I think there's something missing there. That's your elevator speech. And phase 3 is where you are going to have access to your mentors. You have one-on-one interaction with your mentors, and that's going to happen between 16th September to 31st of October. And we hope that by October, we are going to be having physical meet and greet. I know we have people from different countries, over 20 African countries, and across our respective communities or states which we are from. So we are happy that by then we are not too big or numerous to know each other. So we are going to be having physical meet and greet in our respective cities. So people from maybe Ghana, maybe people from Kumasi, Ghana, or people from Kenya, you get to see how you can meet and, connect and further engage with each other. And whereby October and November is mainly focused on development project implementation. So you have to advance on your project and ensure you implement it before the end of the program. And the mentor appreciation program is going to be 1st of November, where we are going to appreciate our mentor. I'm trying to just make this very brief so that we can have enough time to ask questions after Professor Paul has presented his speech and also his lecture. And at the end of it all, we are going to be reviewing and grading your solution report, because we definitely submit a report at the end of this program. So for AIIDEV Africa, when we say we should submit a report 12 p.m. or maybe midnight tomorrow, please ensure you submit it 11:50. Don't wait till midnight, because that form is going to close exactly midnight. And once you don't submit the report, that might lead to your disqualification in the program. So, and when you are asked to maybe fill an attendance or do anything, please don't miss it. Don't miss time, don't miss dates. Ensure you track all these dates. If it's possible, you can even print this and hang it, or maybe somewhere you are going to be seeing it every day. And I think that this just summarizes the program. However, if there are questions, an Ask Me form is going to be shared with you, and we are going to collate all your questions and also respond to it. If not, by the end of today's session, at the end of next week's session, which is going to be on Friday, 2 p.m. For the foundation phase, we are going to respond to all your questions. So for this month, our trainings are going to be on Fridays, 2 p.m. GMT +1. So it's 2 p.m. GMT +1. Please note the time zone. Take, for example, for people that are joining from maybe Kenya or other African countries, that their time zone is +3, GMT +3. Please ensure that you keep to the time zone. That is going to be 4 p.m. at your end. And we just want to ensure that nobody is left behind. So I think I just have to wrap up now so that we can bring Professor Paul up for the next 20 minutes to speak. All right, thank you, everyone, and we wish you good luck and a very impactful program in this African SDGs Mentorship Program. Over to you, Maiwa.
Yes, thank you very much, Regional Coordinator. And I have seen the exciting expectations that our participants are having for this program. And of course, they are beautiful ones. I see some persons saying they look forward to learning the step-by-step processes that guides SDGs engagement for social development. I see some saying they want to learn how SDGs are interconnected and how to contribute their skills and experience to innovative solutions. Fantastic expectations. However, there's something I would like for you to do. Please pen down those expectations. And by November, when you're graduating from this program, we will check what your expectations are and whether AIIDEV Africa, through the Africa SDGs Mentorship Program, has been able to meet or surpass your expectations. Yes, in our further commitment to helping you beat your expectations, we have brought to you a high-profile individual this afternoon. And, I was expecting that maybe when Professor Paul came on the screen, I was going to see some kind of fire emojis or some excitement in the chat. But yeah, I know maybe many of you are not familiar with him yet. But after he would have spoken this afternoon, I'm sure Professor Paul is someone you would get to love. And beyond that, you'll get to learn a whole lot of things from. So who is Professor Paul? Professor Paul is the SDGs Academic Director. He is not just the SDG Academic Director, he is also the contact point for University College Dublin in terms of consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Beyond that, he is very fast and has a lot of influence in the sustainable development space. He is an instructor for Harvard Extension School teaching foundations of sustainable development. Of course, you wonder, here and there it has been sustainable development, it has been sustainable development. Of course, that is one good thing that Professor Patrick looks for. He is very experienced, he holds a lot of certifications and validity in the sustainable development goals. And beyond that, he's also a full professor of international development studies in University College Dublin. Also, he is the vice president of education at United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So, ladies and gentlemen, with your virtual clap, I want you to bring to your screen now Professor Patrick Paul Walsh for his speech to you this afternoon. Professor Paul, you're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that very kind invitation. Normally when people have a lot of titles, it's just because they're old, and that's true in my case. So I'm assuming people on this call and listening on YouTube have time on their hands, which is great. And no better way to actually start thinking about an SDG project and what sort of partnerships and finance and getting all the supports and help of this mentoring program. So today, hopefully you'll find useful. I'm just have a few slides on what SDSN is and what the SDG Academy is and what the SDGs are about. And I'll try and link it to the idea of an SDG project at the end of it. Okay, because I guess that's the purpose of your program. So hopefully you can hear me okay, and then also that you have the slides. Oops, I go back. So I guess one piece of news I have today, which I'm working on, is the UN at the moment is going through a process where they're rethinking what the UN is going to look like beyond 2030. And let's call it the UN 2.0. And they're having what's called a Summit of the Future in September during the General Assembly, which is reimagining the UN and how it can function better in the Security Council and General Assembly, but also how it can operate with partnerships and stakeholders that reach down to country level and down into local level and into communities and individuals like you. So doing a more 360-degree sort of analysis. But I guess what's exciting for me is that I think the last time I was in Africa was in the University of Ibadan, and it is actually a few years ago. But I'm going to be in Kenya next week for the UN Civil Society Conference, and I'll be talking at that. And particularly, I'll be talking on the issue of what's called Chapter 3 in the Summit of the Future, which is all about technology. And in particular, I'm a fan of open licenses, meaning that when you innovate and create something, that really, if it's for the public good, you should be willing to share. Like, I'm not saying don't put a property right on it, but it should be transferable and shareable to people who need it most and who can do the most good with it. So I guess the example I'm thinking in my head is when the taxpayer in Northern Europe and in America paid for the COVID-19 vaccine, it was very silly to close the license and give it to certain companies, and then they wouldn't share it with Africa, for example. I think that's not acceptable. So going forward, I'm a fan of open science, open data, open education resources, but also when you innovate and create something that can be for the global public good, you can share. Obviously, if it's commercialized, you can take a share in that value because it's your property. But if it's used by people who need it and you decide, well, that's for the global public good, you can share that technology or that innovation, etc. But I'll come back to these issues at the end. So my name is Patrick Paul Walsh. I'm called Paul. It's a long story. So I guess I can tell you the story if you like. So in Ireland, when I was young, there was pressure to call you after your grandfather. So my grandfather was called Patrick. And then because we were a Catholic country, St. Paul, or Pope Paul VI was the Pope. So they called me after the Pope. That's Paul. But my mother even though she called me Patrick Paul Walsh, after a while didn't want me called Paddy, Patsy. There's different names for Patrick in Ireland, so she just called me Paul. So I wasn't actually aware I was called formally Patrick until I needed my birth certificate to go on an airplane or a passport. But now I use the full name, because if you go on the internet, Patrick Paul Walsh is quite unique. Patrick Walsh is not, Paul Walsh is not, but the three together seems to be quite unique, and that's my story. But if you call me Paul, I know that you know me. Others call me Patrick, etc. Okay. As I say, I'm a full professor of international development studies, an economist by training, been working on development issues for a long time, and I've decided to go on secondment to SDSN, which I'll explain in a minute, as Vice President of Education, and I run the SDG Academy, and I'll explain that in a second as well. Yeah, so let's do that. So what is SDSN? In 2012, Ban Ki-moon, who was Secretary General of the UN, and Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who's a university professor in Columbia University, they got together and they were saying that after Rio Plus 20, there was going to be 3 years of consultation on what would replace the Millennium Development Goals. And what replaced the Millennium Development Goals is the Sustainable Development Goals. But at the time, they didn't know that. So they had 3 years of consultation through non-governmental and governmental kind of work programs. But the fear is that we had to, SDSN had the mandate to do what's called a census report. And this, at the time, SDSN was co-chaired with Amina Mohammed, who's now the Deputy Secretary General of the UN. And what the whole idea is that you have all these work programs with recommendations, but somebody had to look at them and say, well, are they in contradiction to the existing legal arrangements that are there already? Is this accurate data? Is this accurate science? How feasible this is, etc. So they wanted, let's say, thought leaders, lawyers and academics in particular, to basically do a census report and to make recommendations to the two co-facilitators of the SDGs. One was Irish, a guy called David Donoghue, Ambassador David Donoghue, and one was Kenyan, Ambassador Kamau. And Kenya and Ireland basically put together for 9 months, they had intergovernmental negotiation, and they allowed stakeholders to be in the room, but they came up with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, transforming our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, right? So that was the birth of SDSN in terms of just doing the census report of the work programs. But then after the SDGs were signed and the Paris Agreement was signed, SDGs was signed in September. The following November, we had the Paris Agreement. SDSN became more like a think tank that reported into the Secretary General's area. And its mission is to mobilize, as academics and thought leaders, to mobilize partnerships, government, corporate, civil society, to implement the Paris Agreement, the SDG Agreement, and now the Biodiversity Agreement, to implement it at all levels of governance. In other words, we take part in UN meetings like the one in Kenya next week, or we'll take part in the European Parliament at a regional level, or the African Union, or we'll take part in national government through the VNR process, voluntary national review process, or even local government, or even community projects or NGOs. But the idea is our mandate is just to have it informed by science and legal frameworks to do it appropriately. So since then, in today's SDSN, which is 2024, we have a global network of about 1,900 knowledge institutions in our membership, but the best ones have grouped themselves into national chapters. So there is an SDSN Ireland, for example, run by Queen's University in the north of Ireland and Cork University in the south of Ireland. So it's an all-Ireland university, or all-Ireland SDSN. But there's other SDSNs. There's about 65 country chapters. We have about 6 centers, research centers. We have 3 offices, one in New York, one in Paris, and one in Kuala Lumpur. The Paris office does more on, so New York office does more on science policy interface. The Paris office does more on creating, you might have heard the happiness report, or the SDG dashboard, which ranks countries on the SDGs, or the sort of geo maps to do with nature maps, etc. But it's more that sort of data work. And the academy, I'll explain in a second, is the education, division of SDSN. So what does the Academy do? Well, initially we had money to create content on, and mainly on edX, which is the Harvard MIT platform. We have about 50 courses on the SDGs. They're very much about nature and society, and also economics. Maybe we should have some more on sustainable finance and ESG and entrepreneurship and innovation, but we don't, but maybe it's something to do. But our content is up on edX and on other platforms around the world. When I came in to run the education, our SDG Academy, I realized that we had to put a bit of effort into taking this content and putting it into to mobilize it and get it accredited in some way. So what do I mean by this? Well, we're working with universities like University College Dublin to put the content into the LMSs and do online master's degrees. And we've done this in Sunway as well. We're working with the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania as well. That will come online in a few months, I think. And we're also working with a Mexican university and the University of West Indies and others that we'd like to have, let's say, 6 UN languages, 6 regions working together on an online master's, but using the SDG Academy content. It's a way of getting it accredited because people want accreditation, they want degrees. We're also working with corporates and governments in their HR training. So when they need content, we put it into their LMSs in their HR, human resource systems, and so that they can upskill and reskill their staff. And this is a big area to actually get some sort of a professional accreditation for upskilling and reskilling on the SDGs. We also run communities of practice. So we have a big project with UNESCO on open education resources. We also have a project in the education side with K-12 with Mission 4.7. And we also have other programs like the Masters in Development Practice is a day masters across the world. And there's a few in, I think, Botswana, Nigeria, and South Africa. There's places that run the MDP in Africa. And we also do thought leadership, which is writing blogs or publishing or going to UN events and promoting the idea of access to education and cheap education and professional training and lifelong learning on the SDGs and making it as accessible and as cheap as possible for everyone. I might show you our latest course on the Living Amazon because we did something interesting there. We actually, for the first time, instead of doing on-site production, we used drone footage and pictures from NGOs, and we integrated into the lectures of the scientists and into the policy meetings, and we created a very nice course called the Living Amazon. But I might show you that at the end just to see what you think, to give you an idea what our content looks like, basically. So the mandate for education, I think what was interesting last year at the General Assembly, this is in September 23, Ireland again with Qatar, they co-facilitated a political declaration for what's called the High Level Political Forum, which every 4 years is on the offices of the General Assembly, meaning leaders have to sign, not just ministers at ministerial level. So this is leaders of countries signed. And in a time when there's so many geopolitics and war, the fear is that people would not sign this document, like they wouldn't recommit to the SDGs and the Paris Agreement, etc. But I think what's inspirational is that a lot of the academics and civil society people and government people, they made sure there was a recommitment to the SDGs by everyone. So 193 nations did actually sign on to this political declaration. And the paragraph that's relevant for education, you see here, and it emphasizes lifelong learning, which is important, right? Inclusive and equitable, but also lifelong learning and the use of digital technologies, the use of vocational training and professional training, etc. And of course, there's gender equality and leave no one behind in terms of education. But it's just to give you why we're mobilizing our content, not just into schools, but we're concerned that it's mobilized into communities, into corporates, into universities, so people can have lifelong learning and can actually implement projects on the SDGs. But I guess our mandate for that was reinforced by this political declaration, which was signed by all nations again last September, despite what's going on in the Security Council and the problems that are there. Just to give you an idea of a master's pathway, so you can do a cert on edX. I think it's just about $100 to get 10 credits, which can be folded into a diploma, which is a bit more expensive, but you get 10 credits, 20 credits. And if you do well, you can use those 20 credits to do the master's online in sustainable development. The idea, though, is that anyone who has poor undergraduate or maybe only professional backgrounds could actually do the cert and the diploma. Others with good academic background could just go straight into the master's. And we tried to make it as cheap as possible, like it's 10,000 euros a year, which probably sounds expensive to the individual, but for a top European master's, it's not expensive. And a lot of people get their company or someone to sponsor them if they want to do the master's. And 66% on that course are from outside Europe. They're not in Europe at all. And outside the OECD, actually. In other words, they're in middle to low income countries. So that's, yeah, so this is the project about open science and open data. So an example of this community of practice, during the General Assembly last year, we registered this partnership with UNESCO, and its aim is very simple. It's actually to deliver in all public libraries of schools and parliaments and universities. We want to deliver collections of SDG materials like videos and exercises and homeworks, etc. And we want to deliver them on an open license, meaning that they're free once you're not commercializing them yourself. But even more importantly, it's also to encourage those who have knowledge to put it back and create the content and put it back into the collections. So it's not just about access and reuse and adapt. It's also about creation, and to any sort of indigenous knowledge or African Pacific knowledge should be actually put back into the resource. And of course, this is all feeding into what's called the Summit of the Future's Digital Global Compact, which will be signed in September, and I'll explain that in a second. So that's enough about the Academy. So I just wanted to, I guess, one thing just to say about the SDGs, like the SDGs didn't just come out of nowhere. They actually have a history going back, I think, to 1948, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So in a sense, all of these major conferences that you see there, even from Rio +20 and the adoption of the SDGs, even in 21, we've had this thing called the Common Agenda, which is about accelerating the SDGs with a focus on finance and entrepreneurship and youth empowerment and peace and so on. But we've also had the Transforming Education Summit as part of the Common Agenda, the Midpoint Review, and now we have the Summit of the Future this year in September. But there are a continuum of ideas around the freedom of individuals, political, social, economic freedoms, but also now on the rights of people to a safe environment in terms of clean water, clean air, etc. So it's not completely outrageous to have the 4 dimensions of sustainable development, like society, environment, economics, and governance, and how they all interrelate, and it gives actual freedom to individuals and the globe in general, and protects the planet, obviously, and future populations in particular. I've described the intergovernmental process, so I just want to do a little lesson on the SDGs. That's what I'm going to do here first, okay? So the first thing is that this Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, it's not just the SDGs. There's actually 4 sections, and people forget this, right? So, for example, the section 3 is on the means of implementation. So that's all about, the data you need, the partnerships, the education, the finance, the technologies that you need to implement this project, and the follow-up and review processes, like the governance and the capacities that you need, okay? So, and of course, this mentoring program is a bit about building those capacities. So this agenda, it has MOIs, as we call them, means of implementation. It obviously has the goals themselves and the 169 targets. It has a theoretical framework in a way when you look at the preamble and the vision and the narratives around. So, for example, who are the duty bearers? And in this project, everyone everywhere is the duty bearer, because it just says that everyone has to coordinate, whether they're in their household or whether they're in government or whether they're in their business. Everyone everywhere at local and national, regional and global levels have to come together to protect people and protect nature, because we're having obviously existential threats from not doing that, right? So destroying our environments, having geopolitical wars, creating structural inequalities and so on, that this is not sustainable for humanity, and we have to all start to understand or internalize damage on people and damage on planet and work together in a multilateral sense, okay? So unlike the MDGs, where the duty bearer was the local government, in this agenda, everyone everywhere has to coordinate and work to achieve the agenda. There is a follow-up and review process that's more global, which has been reviewed at the moment at the Summit of the Future. But countries are supposed to be doing voluntary national reviews and creating SDG implementation pathways and putting together the right data and responsibility of different government departments and defining long-term investment plans for health and education and protecting the environment and so on. It's difficult, but it's starting to happen. Yeah. In one way, the SDGs are very simple. They just say, listen, there's social, in anything you do, there's a social, economic, environmental, and governance dimension. And the idea is to look for the synergies amongst these. So even if you're just doing a health program, you've got to think of the economic and the environmental and governance implications of what you're doing, and vice versa. But in general, the 17 goals have MDG plus, like the first 7 are more kind of household goals. Then you have the more economic goals in red, environmental goals in air, land, and water, or air, water, land in the green. And then you have 2 governance goals, which people forget about, which is good institutions. And the governance goals are becoming more important in the sense that even inside universities or NGOs or corporates, you know, governance for sustainable development has to be, you know, for inclusion, do no harm to people, do no harm to nature, has to be put into your statutes or your mission statements, into your boards, into your KPIs, into what you do. And of course, it's not just governments have to do this, it's every legal entity has to do this. And of course, goal 7 is about cooperation across countries, that we have one ocean, effectively, that we have to keep healthy. We've one kind of climate system, one type of food system, and we really do have to, for our own life supports, have to start coordinating across countries in an organized manner so that we can actually have a safe operating space for humanity going forward, particularly into the next 15, 20 or 50 years. So they're the MOIs, you know, so that a lot of work is how do we get finance for our social impact projects? How do we orientate technologies towards these? How do we create the right data sets, the right partnerships, the right science policy interface with universities, the right education programs, professional training programs, and the right sort of governance structures? So this is a lot of the work at the UN at the moment is on the MOIs. It's not necessarily, it is to achieve the goals, but it's the means of achieving those goals that the focus is. The goals, just to remember, are universal, meaning that every country, every city, every household, everyone has to achieve them simultaneously, and they're indivisible, meaning that you can't cherry pick. You're not doing the SDGs if you only focus on the economic goals. You have to always work with the social, environmental, economic, and governance aspects of these goals. I just wanted to say how difficult this is, though. So The Economist, this is from University College London, came up with the donut economics, and they'd love for economic systems to operate within planetary boundaries and to stand on what's called social protection floors, or have a good social foundation. But in a way, where we are at the moment is you take that donut and you actually crumble it up, and then you try to put it back together. And that's how hard the project is, like in the sense that, you know, when we are creating economic policies and doing our everyday activities, we've got to really think about the social and environmental consequences, or else we cannot rebuild the donut. But that's the objective. And the scientists say it's all about protecting land, air, and water, and the oceans. So they say conservation of nature is the most important thing, and biodiversity, and you can think about your economic and social and political systems afterwards. But the reality is that if we don't get our political or governance structures right, we'll never be able to coexist with nature or to do nature preservation or protection, etc. So again, I don't think it's right to have what they call the wedding cake or the pyramid. I think the reality is the way DESA, UN DESA, this is Department of Economic and Social Affairs, thought about things when we signed the SDGs in 2015, where they did a text analysis of the targets and showed the linkages across the targets and the goals. And the whole idea is that every goal actually has its links to the targets in other goals. So a social outcome is linked to economic and very much the environment and governance structures. So if you're really doing SDGs, it's someone who knows the linkages, the spillovers on the 4 dimensions and how it relates to their sort of project and what they're doing. Just to talk about the 2021 Common Agenda, I think for the first time in the UN, which was kind of unusual, is that normally you come to the UN and you're meeting people from across different nations and you want to be positive, you want to think about the future you want to dream, you want to imagine. But on the other hand, if the world is going in a certain dimension, I think you have to mention what we call the elephant in the room, right? Which is the world is not going on sustainable development pathways. So if anything, we're seeing climate change happening more rapidly than we thought before. Why? Because biodiversity or land use is changing, and the absorptive capacity of land and ocean is actually changing. So it means that the more emissions we're putting out, we're actually increasing the average global temperatures much faster than predicted, even back to 2015. So we're seeing biodiversity loss very rapid. We're seeing pollution, we're seeing climate change, we're seeing pandemics. So that's a problem. We're also pointing out that even with the digital technologies, it looks like that access to education, just going to take a bit of water, that even with AI or digital transformation, we're just starting to see more inequality, not less inequality. And that's not a good process. So we have to be very careful with STI, science, technology, innovation, that we're doing it for good and we're doing it for access and not just giving it to the people with assets and money who can actually make even more money at the cost of everyone else. And we have a growing inequality rather than a shrinking inequality. And of course, we're seeing pockets of hunger and conflict, which are not acceptable, even on a micro sense. And it's all interrelated, obviously, with climate change. And of course, this geopolitics that's happening at the moment around the Middle East and in Europe and South China Sea, it's not acceptable to have nuclear threats and nuclear armaments and cybersecurity issues and so on. So if we keep going down these what we call dystopian pathways or dystopian futures, it's not going to end well for humanity. So we all have to take a step back and, you know, confirm and make sure our leadership's confirmed to designing the future we want, which is basically designed around the SDGs, the Paris Agreement, the coming Montreal Biodiversity Framework, and the New York Declaration for Refugees and Migration. So it's integrating those frameworks and being loyal to them is a way for humanity to coordinate and actually just create a self-operating space for our children and children's children going forward. And that's basically what this political declaration said back in September 23. But I just want to talk a little bit about the Summit of the Future that's happening in September. And civil society is being consulted by the UN in Nairobi in Kenya, May 8th to 9th. So that's happening next week. There's floods there, unfortunately, at the moment, but hopefully it'll be okay. And what is the Summit of the Future? Like, where are we going with this? Well, in one way, it's just reimagining the UN, and the UN at the moment just is actually in a bit of trouble. I mean, if countries are not going to take on board UN resolutions and they're going to ignore, can't come up with proper solutions to different conflicts, I think it's very problematic, right? So people have to reaffirm their commitment to the UN Charter. They have to trust in multilateralism. They have to stay and implement their agreements, and they have to restore trust, etc. So a lot of it is this kind of soft stuff, but actually very important for multilateralism. And the sort of areas that they're looking at is, well, how do we increase finance for sustainable development? How does it reach down to local, to medium and low income countries? How does it reach down to communities and social projects? Because in theory, there's plenty of finance out there, but it's just not reaching down to the people who can do it properly. So people are talking about reforming the intergovernmental banks, for example, you know, the World Bank and the IMF, etc. Looking at the regional development banks like the African Development Bank, getting the capital in there, getting the finance in there. So lots of great ideas about how we get more money and get it out into middle and lower income countries and orientate it towards sustainable development. Lots of great ideas for international peace and security mechanisms. Great ideas around the Digital Global Compact, how with technology, like when we actually create technology from taxpayers' money, let's simplify it as robots, for example. I mean, it's not that robots are going to take our jobs and, you know, we can only work 1 day a week and then we're unemployed. If that technology is created from the public purse, well, then all of us should have an ownership in the asset or in robots, and our ownership should generate income that allows us leisure for 4 days and then obviously work for 1 day. So it comes back to the licensing and the open licensing and the ownership of intellectual properties and patents and trademarks and so on. But science and technology, that's for the global public good. The revenues and incomes from that should be shared with the global public, and it should alleviate poverty, and it should actually generate more time for leisure and so on. So that's a big battlefield, not to give the private sector the technology going forward, that the public have to appropriate the technology and the benefits of the technology going forward. Obviously, this youth and future generation, it's actually about intergenerational dialogue. How do we get ministers for finance in particular, or people who are planning government, to think about a 10, 20, 50-year plan and to stop thinking on electoral cycles or to stop thinking about their own personal interest or lobby group interests? We have to, what we call, change the discount rate. People have to value, like the basic principle of sustainable development is that you leave the world behind in as good or even better condition than you find it. So for our future generations, the water should be cleaner, the air should be cleaner, the soil should be more fertile. They should have better technologies. They should have better access to education and health, right? So we are failing future generations if we're leaving the world behind in a worse condition than we found it. And of course, a lot of people are trying to transform global governance, not just of the UN, but also how we regulate migration, how we regulate capital flows, how we look at economic systems, etc. So again, that's creating inequality and lack of access. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. But this Summit of the Future is about suggesting reforms to this whole process and making it more inclusive and care for nature. And these are the big topics for Nairobi in next week, but also for the actual outcome document, which is going through a revision at the moment. And that's why they're consulting with civil society. And then hopefully they'll have a document signed by all leaders in the General Assembly in September, which will empower the United Nations and also a lot of the MOIs and its impact on, its trickle-down impact, if you like, on national and regional and local level, particularly in lower and middle-income countries. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and I'll take questions. There's some of the social media handles of the SDG Academy, and we have a good partnership. So I'll stop for questions. Yeah.
Yeah, Professor Patrick Wash, thank you very much. And I could see the reactions of our audience who are following the session. They're making comments that the session is quite insightful. They've had a lot to learn. They were sure that you are someone they really wanted to learn from and all of that. So the question that we have coming on from here is some of them are asking how they could participate in the SDG academic courses, but I think you'd already mentioned how they could join the courses already. So I think I was going to recommend that they, listen again to the section, and we're going to catch those aspects where they missed. Maybe some of them joined quite late and they couldn't catch the information when you were sharing it out to them. But overall, I see many of the comments that we have with the fact that many of them had a great time with your presentation. They loved every bit of it. Someone said, it was quite easy for them to, understand and, all of those. So I think it has really been a wonderful time. Like always, I think this is how it has always been with you. So because myself, I've had to listen to you for quite a number of times, and I can be sure that every time you speak, quality is always assured. Yes. And yeah, I see the link that you just dropped. Definitely, we're going to send it all out and communicate further with the participants. I think what we'll do is that, okay, they're already saying thank you, Professor Paul. Everybody in the chat is they are putting a lot of kind words for you and all of that. But someone is asking a quick question. Someone says that do you offer like a scholarship opportunity for the SDG Academy?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a scholarship provision.
Yeah. So just very short. So in UCD, we do have 3 scholarship opportunities, but you have to get an offer letter first. And then what we do is when people have offers, we encourage them to try and find funding from an agency or their employer. But then if they don't have it, we look at the remaining group. And the good news is that we do tend to give it to Africa, to be honest. So there you go. So it's just 3 scholarships. But when we're up and running with Dar es Salaam, which will be a much cheaper program, but it'll be, a joint program. I personally think when we have that going, something like, the African Development Bank and others should be really quite interested in supporting young professionals. So I'm hoping that when we get the joint platform up and running, that some of the multilateral or even African Development Bank would be very interested in a very cheap kind of massive, high quality, but cheap sort of masters, because it is very important that young professionals in Africa get trained. I mean, it's the most important thing you could do for Africa is to give them accessible and high quality masters that are actually affordable. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm sure the person already got the information correctly, and maybe the individual would definitely await the partnership, or maybe just give it a shot at the 3 offers that you mentioned that are available.
Yeah.
Of course, I think that is after they must have gotten themselves an admission letter and something like that. Okay, great. So thank you very much, Professor Patrick Paul, and we'll be sending the participants a kind of a form to take further questions from them.
Sure,
so
good.
I think such questions that concerns the SDGs Academy, we'll be glad to pass them across to you so that we can have the proper information given to them.
Sure.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm sure there's SDGs is a big network, or it's a big group of people. So if you need some mentors, I'm sure they'll come on and help out on sustainable finance or other issues that you were talking about. So no problem.
Oh, fantastic. I think we'll love that.
Yeah.
Because I could see already when I was asking about the expectations, some of them are readily mentioning those specific SDGs that they want to major on. So definitely we have people from SDG 7 mentored some of them. It's good for them.
Yeah.
It's good for them. All right, that's fine. So thank you very much on behalf of AIIDEV Africa. Like always, I want to appreciate you again, Professor Patrick Wash. And definitely, we thank you for your time, for your section, for your dedication, for your interest in AIIDEV in particular. And of course, we hope to have you with us soon again. And maybe some of those participants on the call this afternoon will be lucky enough to have you directly mentor them.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor. And I say you have the best of days.
Yeah, look after yourself. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yes. Yeah. So I see what is going on in the chat. I see many of you saying the kind words to Professor Paul. You know, this is one of the good things that we can promise you at AIIDEV. Quality is always assured. We are definite about quality in anything that we do. So you know, this will be the end of the information section for this afternoon. However, we'll be sending a form to you to collect all your questions that we'll not be able to answer right now. And beyond that, we'll also make sure that for those questions that we have on this chat, please look out for answers to your questions, as our officers will definitely be providing answers to your questions maybe in a couple of minutes. So please make sure to get further information from your program guide. Make sure to follow the deadlines and the timelines accordingly. And of course, definitely our next session is going to be next Friday. Watch out for that and be on the lookout for every of our information in your email. I see a lot of other things that you are proposing in the chat. Accordingly, in good time, we would communicate to you which would work and which would not. So I think right about now, this is where I want to say fantastic thank you for each and every one of you on this call this evening. I congratulate you again on this impactful and progressive journey that you have started today. And I hope that by the end of this fellowship, you will definitely be happy that you have been a beneficiary of this program. On behalf of AIIDEV Africa and the leadership, I say you do all have a great evening. All right, bye for now, everyone, and see you again.